Welcome to our today's story on how to uncover my authentic self once more. First, erode facade. As the first rays of dawn painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, I found myself standing in front of the bathroom mirror, staring into a reflection that felt unfamiliar. The reflection that stared back at me was a person wearing a mask I had worn for years, concealing the real me. It was a face that I had worn to please others, to fit into society's molds, and to escape judgment. But now, at this very moment, I felt the mask beginning to crack, and a deep longing to uncover my authentic self. My life had become a series of performances, acts designed to meet the expectations of family, friends, and society. I had spent so much time trying to be the person they wanted me to be that I had lost sight of who I really was. My journey to rediscover my authentic self began that morning, standing in front of the mirror, with an unsettling awareness that I was living a life that wasn't truly mine. 2. The turning point. It all started a few months ago, during a routine conversation with a close friend named Emma. We had met for coffee, and as we sipped our lattes, she began talking about her recent decision to leave her corporate job and start pursuing her passion for painting. Her eyes sparkled with excitement, and her words resonated deeply with me. Emma was chasing her dreams and living a life true to herself, not one dictated by societal norms. As I listened to her story, a heavy weight settled in my chest. I realized that I had been living a life that was largely inauthentic. I had chosen a career in accounting because it was considered safe and secure. I had married the person my parents approved of, not the person I had truly loved. And I had molded my personality to fit the expectations of others. Emma's words echoed in my mind, and I knew that something needed to change. The life I was leading wasn't mine, and I needed to embark on a journey to uncover my authentic self. 3. The inner quest. My journey to uncover my authentic self was a daunting one. It meant confronting the uncomfortable truths about myself and my choices. It meant shedding the layers of pretense that had built up over the years. To begin, I decided to keep a journal to record my thoughts and feelings. Writing helped me sort through my emotions, and I began to identify the areas of my life where I had been inauthentic. One of the first revelations came when I realized that I had been neglecting my own passions and interests for far too long. I had always loved writing, but I had set aside my dream of becoming an author because it seemed impractical. I was determined to rekindle that passion. In the evenings, I started writing short stories and essays, and it brought me a sense of joy and fulfillment I hadn't felt in years. 4. Reconnecting with my past. To uncover my authentic self, I knew I had to revisit my past. I decided to visit my childhood home, a small town where I had spent my early years. As I walked down the familiar streets and visited my old school, memories flooded back. I remembered the simple joys of playing in the park, the thrill of discovering new books in the local library, and the dreams I had as a child. Reconnecting with my past helped me see that my authentic self had always been there, buried beneath layers of conformity. I began to reconnect with the passions and interests that had excited me as a child. I enrolled in a creative writing class, and the feeling of putting pen to paper brought me a sense of liberation. 5. Navigating relationships. Uncovering my authentic self meant reevaluating my relationships. I had to confront the difficult task of being honest with my loved ones about the changes I was making in my life. Some friends and family were supportive, while others were resistant to the idea of me deviating from the path they had envisioned for me. Conversations were difficult, and some friendships grew strained, but I knew that the journey to my authentic self was more important than anyone's expectations. I learned to set boundaries and communicate my desires honestly. Some relationships evolved, and others faded away, but I was determined to surround myself with people who accepted me for who I truly was. 6. Embracing vulnerability. Beneath the layers of my carefully crafted facade, I found vulnerability. I realized that I had been masking my true self to protect against judgment and rejection. But in the process of uncovering my authentic self, I learned that vulnerability was not a weakness but a strength. It was the path to genuine connection with others. I started to open up to friends and confide in them about my struggles and my journey. I discovered that people appreciated my honesty and vulnerability. It was through these raw, genuine conversations that I formed deeper connections and found a sense of belonging. 7. Living authentically. As I continued on my journey, I started making conscious choices that aligned with my authentic self. I left my unfulfilling job in accounting and pursued a career in writing. It was a risk, but I felt alive and invigorated with every word I penned. I also revisited the question of my marriage, a relationship that had been built on societal expectations rather than love. After difficult conversations and soul-searching, we decided to part ways amicably. It was painful, but it was a necessary step to ensure we both had the opportunity to live authentically and pursue happiness on our own terms. 8. The unveiling. The process of uncovering my authentic self was not without challenges. It was a journey that involved moments of self-doubt and fear. There were times when I questioned if I was making the right choices. But with each step forward, I gained confidence in my decisions and a greater sense of self-assurance. Over time, the mask I had worn for years began to crumble, revealing the real me beneath. I was no longer living to please others or conform to societal norms. I was living for myself, guided by my passions, dreams, and values. It was a remarkable feeling, like shedding an old, heavy coat and stepping into the warmth of the sun. 9. A new beginning. With my authentic self uncovered, I felt a profound sense of liberation. I was no longer imprisoned by the expectations of others. I had rekindled my love for writing, embraced vulnerability, and surrounded myself with people who accepted me as I was. My journey had taught me that authenticity is a continuous process. It's not a destination but a way of life. I understood that life is too short to live it inauthentically, and I was committed to honoring my true self. As I stood once again in front of the bathroom mirror, the reflection staring back at me was no longer a stranger. It was me, the real me. The journey to uncover my authentic self had been transformative, and I knew that it was a journey that I would continue for the rest of my life. Epilogue: Embracing the unveiled self. The journey to uncovering my authentic self was not without its challenges, but it was a path well worth taking. It was a journey of self-discovery, self-acceptance, and self-love. I had learned that living authentically meant embracing my imperfections and embracing the journey, no matter how daunting it might seem. Here's how my story continued as I embraced my unveiled self. 10. Embracing imperfections. One of the most profound lessons I had learned on my journey was the beauty of imperfection. I had spent so much of my life trying to be perfect in the eyes of others, but I had come to realize that perfection was an illusion. Authenticity was about embracing the flaws, quirks, and idiosyncrasies that made me who I was. I allowed myself to make mistakes and to learn from them. I forgave myself for the times I had strayed from my true path. In doing so, I found a new sense of self-compassion, an essential element of living authentically. 11. Inspiring others. As I continued to live authentically, I discovered that my journey had the power to inspire others to do the same. Friends and acquaintances reached out to me, sharing their own struggles and aspirations. I became a source of support and encouragement for those who sought to uncover their authentic selves. I started a blog where I shared my experiences and insights, hoping to reach a wider audience. The response was overwhelming, and I realized that my journey was part of a larger movement. Authenticity was contagious, and by sharing my story, I could contribute to a world where more people lived true to themselves. 12. A life aligned with values. Living authentically also meant living in alignment with my values. I had taken the time to identify what truly mattered to me: integrity, creativity, compassion, and connection. These values became the guiding principles of my life. I made conscious choices that upheld these values, whether it was in my work, my relationships, or my daily actions. I found that when I lived in alignment with my values, I experienced a deep sense of purpose and fulfillment that I had never felt before. 13. The journey continues. My journey to uncover my authentic self was an ongoing one. I had come to understand that authenticity was not a destination but a continuous process of self-discovery and growth. I remained open to change, ready to embrace new passions and interests as they emerged. I continued to cultivate meaningful relationships with those who accepted me for who I was and encouraged my authenticity. These connections were a source of strength and support, and I cherished them. 14. Rediscovering love. As I embraced my authentic self, I allowed myself to be vulnerable once more. I no longer built walls to protect myself from rejection or judgment. In doing so, I found love again, this time with someone who appreciated me for who I truly was. This love was built on a foundation of honesty, acceptance, and shared values. It was a love that allowed me to be myself, and I reveled in the deep connection and understanding we shared. 15. The unveiled self. The journey to uncover my authentic self had transformed my life in profound ways. I had learned to embrace vulnerability, forgive my imperfections, and live in alignment with my values. I had inspired others to embark on their own journeys of self-discovery, and I had discovered a love that celebrated the real me. As I stood before the mirror once more, the reflection staring back at me was a testament to the power of authenticity. I was no longer a stranger to myself. I was the unveiled self, and I was living a life that was truly my own. Epilogue, a life well lived. My journey to uncover my authentic self had been a remarkable one, filled with challenges, growth, and self-discovery. It had taught me that authenticity was not a destination but a way of life, and it was a way of life I was committed to. I had learned that the most important relationship we have is the one we have with ourselves. By embracing my authentic self, I had found a deep sense of self-acceptance and self-love. I had also learned that authenticity had the power to inspire and connect people, creating a world where individuals could live true to themselves. My story was a reminder that it's never too late to uncover your authentic self. It's a journey worth taking, a journey that leads to a life well lived. As I moved forward, I knew that my path was not yet complete, and the adventure of self-discovery would continue, but now, I walked it with a sense of purpose and an open heart.